Echoes of a Lost Love. Chapter 1. The Encounter. Alex Blake, a young writer, moved to Knightsbridge in search of inspiration for his new book. The town, with its old buildings and quiet streets, seemed like the perfect place to work. Alex rented an old house that was full of history and charm. He hoped that here he would find ideas for his novel. On the first night in his new home, Alex couldn't sleep. He lay in bed, listening to the clock ticking on the wall. There was a deep silence around, only occasionally disturbed by the rustling of the wind outside the window. Suddenly, his attention was caught by strange sounds coming from outside. It wasn't the usual noise of the night. He heard a faint, barely audible sob, which made his heart beat faster. Alex decided to check what was happening and went outside. The night was clear, the moon shining brightly, bathing the streets in soft silver light. Alex walked down the road, peering into the darkness. Suddenly, at the edge of the forest, he saw a girl. She stood still, her figure illuminated by the moonlight. The girl was dressed in an old-fashioned dress, her face showing deep sadness. She looked as if she had come from another era. Alex felt his heart stop from both fear and curiosity. He took a few steps toward her, trying to make out her face. "Hey, are you okay?" he called out, but his voice sounded muffled and unsure. The girl slowly turned around. Her eyes were full of pain and despair, and her skin was as transparent as mist. Alex froze, unable to believe his eyes. In the next moment, the girl disappeared, as if dissolving into the air. Alex was left standing alone on the empty street, feeling the cold wind run down his spine. He tried to understand what had just happened. It was not an ordinary girl, but a ghost. Who was she, and why did she appear here every night? These questions haunted him as he returned home. Back in the house, Alex sat in his chair for a long time, pondering what he had seen. He knew that this vision was not a figment of his imagination. Something or someone was trying to send him a message. He felt that he had to find out who this girl was and why her spirit couldn't find peace. Alex decided that his first task would be to solve this mystery, and maybe it would become the basis for his new book. Chapter 2. The investigation begins. The next day, Alex woke up with a sense of urgency and determination to figure out what had happened the previous night. He understood that a single encounter with the ghostly girl was not enough to understand her story. Seeking answers, he decided to visit the local library, hoping to find something useful there. The Knightsbridge Library was an old stone building with high ceilings and shelves filled with old books. Inside, there was a peaceful atmosphere, and Alex immediately felt at home. He approached the desk, where a young woman with kind eyes and a friendly smile was sitting. This was Sophie Miller, the local historian and librarian. "Good morning, how can I help you?" she asked, her voice soft and welcoming. Alex briefly recounted his night vision, hoping she wouldn't think he was crazy. To his surprise, Sophie didn't look shocked. On the contrary, her eyes lit up with interest. "This isn't the first time someone has seen her," she said quietly. "Her name is Lily, and she has been a part of our town's history for a long time." Sophie led Alex through the maze of shelves filled with old books and archives. They began searching for information about Knightsbridge's past and came across mentions of Lily, who lived there more than 100 years ago. Lily was the daughter of a wealthy landowner, but her life ended tragically. Sophie explained that Lily was found dead at the edge of the forest, and her death was shrouded in mystery. "We need to find out what really happened to Lily and why her spirit can't find peace," Sophie said resolutely. "Maybe if we can help her, she will be able to move on." Alex and Sophie began interviewing local residents and collecting old documents, hoping to find a clue. They found old maps and photographs that helped them understand what the town looked like when Lily lived there. Sophie showed Alex her family's old house, now abandoned and overgrown, and they decided to explore it. The abandoned house was dark and dilapidated, its walls covered with dust and cobwebs. But Alex and Sophie were not afraid. They searched the house, hoping to find something that could shed light on Lily's story. In one of the old trunks in the attic, they found Lily's diary. The diary was full of pain and despair. Lily wrote about her love for a young artist and how her father was against their relationship. She dreamed of running away with him, but their plans were thwarted. Alex and Sophie felt that through these letters and paintings, They were getting closer to understanding Lily and her sufferings. They realized that the case was much more complicated than it seemed at first glance. Lily's story was full of tragedies and secrets that the families of Knightsbridge preferred to forget. "We can't stop now," Alex said, clutching Lily's diary. "We have to help her." Sophie nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "We will uncover the truth, Alex. We must." Chapter 3. Unveiling the Past. Day by day, Alex and Sophie learned more about Lily's tragic story. They discovered that Lily had fallen in love with a young artist who had come to Knightsbridge to sketch the local scenery. The artist was poor, and when Lily's father found out about their relationship, he strictly forbade them from seeing each other. Her father was a cruel and powerful man who believed his daughter deserved a better fate. Lily, confined to her home, wrote in her diary, which Alex and Sophie found in an old trunk in the attic. The diary was filled with pain and despair. Lily wrote about her love for the artist and how she dreamed of running away with him. She couldn't bear the separation and suffering, and one night decided to flee. One evening, Lily and the artist decided it was time to escape. The night was dark, with the moon as their only light. They met at the edge of the forest, where Lily put on the artist's coat to avoid being recognized. She looked unusual, her figure in the men's clothing appearing strange, but this was their plan, to confuse anyone who might follow them. Lily stood at the edge of the cliff, her heart pounding. She felt fear and hope intertwine within her. The artist, leaving her for a moment, went to check if the path was safe. Lily remained alone, her eyes looking into the distance, filled with hope and determination. But at that moment, everything went wrong. Lily suddenly felt a sharp pain in her chest. She looked down and saw an arrow sticking out of her body. Blood began to flow, staining her clothes a dark red. Lily weakened and fell to the ground, her breathing becoming shallow and irregular. When the artist returned, he found Lily lying on the ground. His heart froze with horror and pain. He ran to her, trying to hold her, but her body was heavy and lifeless. He couldn't believe his eyes. "Lily, no. Please, hold on," he cried, but she could no longer hear him. The artist stood up, his eyes burning with anger and despair. He looked around, searching for the shooter, but saw no one. The forest was silent, as if nature itself had frozen in horror. He ran into the depths of the forest, hoping to find the person who had committed this crime, but found no one. He felt helpless and broken. Returning to where Lily lay, the artist felt the world crumble around him. He knelt beside her body, his heart shattered. He realized he had lost the only person he loved. He couldn't live without her. Unable to bear the pain of loss, the artist stood up and looked at the cliff before him. He knew he couldn't go on without Lily. Tears streamed down his cheeks as he stepped forward and jumped, forever joining his beloved in death. Alex and Sophie read these words with heavy hearts. Lily and the artist's story was tragic and full of pain. They realized that Lily's death was not accidental but the result of someone's cruelty and jealousy. But who could have committed this terrible crime? This question remained unanswered, and they knew their investigation was not over. Chapter 4. The Hermit's Cabin. Alex and Sophie knew that after Mrs. Wilson's story, they needed to delve deeper into Thomas's biography, Lily's father's assistant, who was also in love with her. They went to the local archive to find more information about Thomas and his life after Lily's death. The Knightsbridge archives were full of old documents and records. Alex and Sophie spent several hours poring over the pages to gather as much information as possible about Thomas. They learned that Thomas was indeed a devoted servant of Lily's father and watched over her on his orders. However, his jealousy and unrequited love for Lily made him dangerous. Sophie found an old newspaper mentioning that after Lily's death, Thomas suddenly left town and went to live in the forest. People said he became a hermit, avoiding society and hiding from everyone. This information intrigued Alex and Sophie even more. "We need to find his cabin in the forest," Sophie said, her eyes burning with determination. "Maybe there we will find answers to our questions." Alex nodded in agreement. Over the course of their investigation, they had grown closer. Sophie admired Alex's determination, and he, in turn, valued her knowledge and insight. Their common goal brought them even closer. They took the necessary equipment and set off into the forest. The forest was dense and dark, the trees forming a thick canopy through which barely any light penetrated. Alex and Sophie walked cautiously, carefully examining every corner, hoping to find traces of Thomas. After a while, they stumbled upon an old, decrepit cabin. It was hidden among the trees, its walls covered with moss and vines. Alex and Sophie approached, feeling their hearts beating faster. They knew this place could hold the key to solving the mystery of Lily's death. The cabin was abandoned, but inside were still traces of someone's presence. The table was covered with dust, and old books and household items stood on the shelves. Alex and Sophie began examining the cabin, hoping to find something that could shed light on the events of that fateful night. On the table, they found an old diary that seemed to belong to Thomas. The pages were yellowed and fragile, but the writing was still legible. Alex and Sophie sat down and began reading the diary. In the diary, Thomas wrote about his feelings for Lily, his jealousy, and his hatred for the artist. He described how he watched them on Lily's father's orders, but soon his entries became darker. Thomas wrote about his plans to get rid of the artist to win Lily's heart. But the most shocking moment came when they read about that fateful night. Thomas described how he took a bow and arrows and followed Lily and the artist into the forest. He intended to shoot the artist but accidentally hit Lily, who was wearing the artist's coat. Alex and Sophie were stunned, realizing they held the key to solving the mystery. Thomas had not only been in love with Lily, but had caused her death out of jealousy and hatred. They felt their hearts fill with sympathy for Lily and the artist. "Now we know the truth," Alex said quietly, closing the diary. "But we have to tell everyone." Sophie nodded, her eyes full of resolve and sorrow. "We will do everything we can to restore justice for Lily and her lover." They knew their investigation was not yet over. They had to tell the townspeople about their findings to help Lily's spirit find peace. When the truth about Lily's death was revealed, no one saw Lily's ghost again. Chapter 5. A New Beginning. In the evening, Alex and Sophie sat in the library, engrossed in discussing the mystery solution and their recent discoveries. The fire crackled in the fireplace, creating a cozy atmosphere. Books and old documents were scattered on the table, reminding them of the work they had done and the path they had traveled. "Now that we know the truth, Lily and her artist can finally find peace," Alex said softly, his gaze thoughtful. Sophie nodded, her eyes glowing with warmth. "We did everything we could to restore justice. Now the townspeople know what really happened that night." They looked at each other, feeling that something more than just professional interest was growing between them. Their shared goal had brought them closer, and now they couldn't ignore their feelings. "Sophie," Alex began, a little shyly, "during our investigation, I realized that you've become more than just a colleague to me." Sophie smiled, her heart beating faster. "I feel the same way, Alex. You are an amazing person, and I'm glad we went through all this together." They sat in silence, enjoying the moment. Alex reached out and gently touched Sophie's cheek. She closed her eyes, enjoying his touch. Their faces slowly came closer, and soon their lips met in a gentle kiss. The moment was full of tenderness and emotion, as if the whole world around them had disappeared. But suddenly Alex felt a strange unease. He pulled away from Sophie and looked toward the window. "Something's not right," he whispered, his voice full of caution. "I feel like someone is watching us." Sophie also noticed the strange feeling. She stood up and walked to the window, but saw nothing behind the curtains. However, her heart beat faster as she realized who it could be. "It's probably David," she admitted, her voice trembling. "He was my former suitor. We broke up because of his jealousy and control. He never understood why I was so passionate about history and books." Alex frowned, his instincts telling him to be careful. "We need to stay vigilant. If it's David, we need to know what he wants and why he's here." Sophie nodded, her eyes filled with determination. "We will handle this, Alex. Together we can overcome any obstacle." They returned to the table, knowing that new challenges awaited them. But now they were confident in their feelings and their readiness to fight for their love and for the truth. Thus ended their story, full of mysteries, investigations, and blossoming love. But ahead lay a new chapter of life, in which they would be together, ready to face any hardships. The end. If you enjoyed this video, please subscribe to our channel and don't forget to hit the like button. Thank you for your attention.